Hello, this is Charlie of LARP Larks making a quick and dirty guide to making your character on the Empire website. So, well, on the Profound Decisions website, which I guess is the one initial difference between where you might find stuff on the wiki and where you do things for your character. So Profound Decisions is the website that you need to go to and make an account. So we're just going to go into our account down the side here and click on create an Empire character. We're just going to see this page. Yes, it looks kind of old-fashioned. Yes, it kind of is, but we can get through this. First of all is your nation, and this is a really important part of making your character and making sort of the base, the culture of like your character. And if you're joining with friends, I would suggest that you go with the same nation, because you would all live in the same place. You'd be coming from the same place to visit Anvil, and that's much more connecting than being completely across the field and exploring completely different cultures. And yeah, it's always best to be together. So let's say I am clicking around. I feel like none of these look like how I would expect the nations to look now, but you know, it's been like 10 years, so things can change across the time. So we're going to go with the League, and then we're going to click across to skills. So this is going to give you an idea of what you would like to be in the game. So if you want to do combat and have specific ideas of what you'd like to do within combat, that's great. Hero skills are fantastic because they give you more like points, more like hit points and things like that. So definitely worth going for if you're going to do combat. So these two are kind of basic combat skills. Well, basic as in like this is staying alive, and this is your skills when it comes to weapons and whatnot. Magical skills. So if you want to do anything to do with magic whatsoever, you should get this initial skill. When you click on a skill, you'll see how many points you've spent and how many you have left, because you'll have 7 points available. And imagine if I wanted to become an autumn magician or something like that, then it adds 1 on, and then I see that I only have 6 left. So there we go. One thing you have to remember, I'm going to remove, how do I remove these? That's a good question. That's a very good question. There we go. If I just click on this one, then I can completely wipe it clean and start again. Really important thing to remember is that you can change all of these, because if you're being a first time player, you can change every single skill after your first game, and maybe even a little after that, but like definitely consider this after your first game, because you might go in being like, I'm going to be a magician and I love the idea of that, and then something about being a magician, maybe the crunching numbers or even like the roleplay side of it just isn't for you. You're just not enjoying it, or all the rest of your group is going to combat and then you're like waiting around for a couple of hours a day not really knowing what to do with yourself, and you're like, I'm just going to go fight instead. So just go all in on something in this like skills list, whatever appeals to you right now, knowing that that can change in the future, and that's okay. So surgical skills. So this means that you can heal people. So you can heal people on the battlefield. There's also a hospital that is just kind of outside of the battlefield that is completely player made, which is very, very cool, and just like great for roleplay and things like that. You can build up to being a physic, an apothecary, and all that kind of things. You could end up like being a master of poisons. You could be doing all kinds of different things, but this is that kind of like doctory healing, maybe poisoning kind of route that can get you onto the battlefield. It can also get you doing things on the main field as well, so that's quite adaptable. And we've got crafting skills. So artisans are people that can make magical items, which is very useful. I feel like the longer the people are in the game, people will like naturally come and collect more and more kind of these items and build them up. They can back up any part of the game, really. You could be a priest and have vestments that allow you to do extra things without requiring a cost of resource, because you have the magical item. There are obviously like weapon buffs and armor and all these different kinds of things, and I'm sure amplifying things for magic as well. There is a lot. It's very cool. You can see like a good list of it on the wiki as well. And then religious skills is, if you're a priest, then you will have a bunch of these skills, ideally a lot of them, because then it means you can just do a lot as a priest. And dedication is the first thing you would choose, because the religion is based on 7 virtues. That is, I'm going to challenge myself: courage, ambition, pride, loyalty, prosperity. I said wisdom? Did I say wisdom? I don't know. Vigilance is the one I usually forget. Did I just do them all? Anyway, virtues. So priests either are dedicated to a virtue or they are dedicated to the way, which is sort of overriding like all of the virtues, all of the things, the way. And you are dedicated, so you are dedicated usually by someone else to be able to become a priest like that in the first place, but you could turn up to Anvil already having had your dedication and being like a somewhat experienced priest. And then there are lots of other skills. This is obviously where my game is at the moment, so I know a lot more about it. But consecration, you put certain kind of auras on spaces and like tents and things like that. Hallowing is like putting a certain aura around an item. Excommunicate, take people out of the church. That's a very extreme one. You can anoint, which is great for battle amongst other things, but it helps give people a certain like fortitude against like maybe cursing and things like that. And it also gives a little roleplay effect based on your dedication. So if you have courage, you might be great for anointing people before they go into battle. And then insight, we can like read things that have been placed upon a person. So if a person has been cursed and we did insight, the player would be able to like reveal what has happened to them. Or there are certain things like a testimony, which is the last skill, which you can put on someone's soul. It's 2 words you put on someone's soul, and it carries throughout them even beyond their character, which is pretty cool. People do use it for silly purposes, but there are also like beautiful character moments that could happen through that as well. So I feel like I should have like gone through a bit more with the rest of these, but ultimately that's kind of the overview of these skills. Go for what you kind of think sounds cool. You can click these question marks and it'll bring up a wiki page for each of them, and you'll be able to read through a bit more, but don't sweat it too much. Don't be afraid of using them. You can always sort of redo them later, especially after your first ever go. Now we're moving on to options. We've got your personal resource, which is quite important. One, before you do any of that, you choose your territory. So I'm going to choose Sarvos, because that's one of the cities in League. Definitely worth looking into the wiki, and whether you know someone going into the game, ask them where they're from specifically within your nation, or go and look at all the different kinds of places and see what speaks to you. Sarvos is like this fancy coastal kind of city where a bit like Italian Renaissance, very artsy, used to be the city of mirrors, now is the city of masks. There's like some very cool little things about it, and that's because like I've got entrenched in that world, and it's just lovely to feel connected to the place that you're going into. So learning a bit more really specifically about the place that you're from and what's special about it and how that might have shaped you and your life is, I think, a good place to start with background. Okay, so quick and dirty breakdown of personal resources. You've got your territory, you've chosen that, you've chosen your nation, and then we have your base amount. Everybody gets 18 rings of income every summit. And then on top of that, businesses and farms would get more income, so more money from their businesses. The reason why they're different is because sometimes there will be sort of in-game specific differences in the income people get because of, say, the story. Imagine if there's like an Eternal making massive storms and wiping out, flooding people's land, and then suddenly all the farms in this specific territory will get less income, or there could be something great that happens and then all the businesses in this place, all the farms in this place get extra income because it's so much more fruitful. So they're different but also the same in some ways. Congregations, manor sites, herb gardens, forests and mines are essentially, you get 18 rings and then you get a resource that could either be used specifically for your character because of the certain like qualities of them, or they could be something that you trade. So a congregation is what a priest would get. With a congregation you also get votes to vote in the synod, so that's quite important. And you will then get liao on top of that, and liao is what priests use to do basically all of their priestly actions. Herb gardens are, you receive herb resources, and that can be used by physics and all sorts of things like that. Mana sites are used often by magicians, producing mana, which is essential for any magical spells. And then we have mines, which produce these like rare sort of metals and things like that. Forests that produce rare materials, and you can use those for making artisans' tools often. Then we've got military units, which means that you can send your military units in downtime, so between games, towards particular missions and adventures which could affect your game. You can get resources from that. It's a bit more random, but sometimes you can get like a really good payoff from certain things that you've gone and done. And then we've got fleets, which are quite new, I think, maybe brand new, maybe not brand new, I'm not sure. But fleets, I think maybe we have a navy now, and that's what I'm getting confused with. But a fleet, you can go out to sea, you can go trade with other nations and get interesting things, or you can go on certain adventures and get interesting things and sort of fight for the nation as well. So there's a sort of like mix of things here, but the base is you get 18 rings and then you get something else, whether that is more money or whether that is like some extra kind of resource or resources. Again, this is something that you can change, especially after your first game. It might be the easiest just to go for a business or a farm, just so then you have those kind of things, but also all these other things are really quite interesting. And if you feel like you'd be confident in trading, or you have specific things you want to do, like being a physic or being a magician or being a priest, then having those resources already, so you don't have to go and like haggle and trade them from somewhere else, means you can do a lot more on the field. Right. Oh, I must select the type of forest. Let's say I'm going to go for a dragonbone forest. Details. So identity, we get to choose our name. Look up the naming customs for your nation, because my first name was Rorigan Corrigan because I thought that sounded funny. I only used it for a couple of games and then moved on to a different character. but that did not fit being in Navarre and doesn't fit really being anyone on the field. You can choose your names, but try and fit within the customs of your particular place. So because I'm in Sarvos, I might pick a vaguely kind of like Italian kind of sounding name, and then my surname would be De Sarvos, and I might add like an extra surname in there for more flavour, more kind of information. It might have something to do with the guild I'm part of or something like that, but ultimately I would be, something De Sarvos, and then that is, a perfectly serviceable name. And then we can choose our archetype. Please look into your archetypes. And then we see all these various different kind of vibes. You can even choose no archetype if you want to, but a bishop, that's what priests are called in the league. Bravos, like fighting kind of dueling show-offs. Kikabeo, they are people of the night who can provide services and are often quite artsy people. Merchant Prince is sort of head of household and striving to make a name for themselves and their guild. Mountebanks are like con artists, but can be also magicians as well. And then we have troop magicians, which are often like magicians that are actors or see themselves as actors, usually very creative and all those kinds of things. So that's the archetypes, but only for the league. Every single nation will have different archetypes, so it's really worth looking into and is a great sort of basis for your character. I feel like nation and archetype really help build like the foundation of who you might be. You get to choose your species. You're most likely going to be a human. It might not even present an option here, but because in the league we have recently got orcs as part of our nation, we have the choice to be an orc. You'd have to be from a specific place potentially, but then everyone could kind of move around, so maybe you would be an orc in Sarvos and you don't have to be from Apulia, an Apulian orc. You don't have to be from this like one city where they all originate from. You could have immediately moved to another city within the league, which is pretty fun. Lineage, again, worth looking up. If you want elf ears, if you want antlers, if you want like vampire teeth, if you want to look really gothy or really like seasidey or lizardy or all these kinds of different things, or like a plant person, you can be under one of these categories, but please look into them and stay somewhat like loyal to those lineages. But you can just be a human as well. You do not have to have any of these extra features, but lineages do provide a particular kind of personality edge to your character as well, which might appeal to you. Nagas are very lizardy, I would say a bit more dragony almost, a little hedonistic, a little like in taking in the pleasures of life and loving gossip and secrets and things. And then we have changelings that might have like elf ears, I believe, and like antlers, and they can be a bit more like upbeat but like quick to change their feelings and maybe a bit impulsive or quick to anger, things like that. So there's lots of different personalities that we can get from that, but you also don't have to participate that at all. It's a choice to have those kinds of things as part of your character, literally just for the physical act of having to have these extra things on you, and you might really enjoy that. You might really enjoy having fangs or something like that, but some people might not want to have like scales stuck on their skin or have to like make sure that their headband stays in place all the time. But again, there are magics that can, so say if I chose to be a Cambion and I got some massive like goatee horns, like ram's horns, and then I'm like, ooh, I am getting stuck on every single tent that I'm walking into, and I just don't feel like I'm ever gonna like learn to feel comfortable with this. Then there are magical like spells and whatnot, people doing those on the field that could reduce the appearance of your lineage, so you can change your lineage on the field. So don't worry too much about investing in one of these. If you really, really struggle with it and you didn't think that, you're sort of unexpected, you didn't think you'd struggle with it, you can make it a part of your character, make it part of your experience, and that can be all part of the fun of the game as well. So with basically all of these things, you can kind of change them, and apart from your name, and you'll be able to, and also your species, you can't just like change that. Most of these things you can change if you really like need to, and if you really want to, you can retire a character and start from a new one. So there's always options. Don't feel like paralyzed in having to make the perfect decision. Okay, let's move on. So groups. So I used to get really confused. I think this little statement is probably quite helpful. Do not select a banner, coven or sect without agreeing with the player who runs the group first. Because I was always like, do I have to choose a thing from this? I'm confused. Do I need to choose what like thing I'm part of, what like group I'm part of? I don't know. Do they exist? Can I do this? I'm not sure. So don't do this unless you have specifically made a group or joined a group. If you are joining with a bunch of friends and you want to be part of an official group as you're joining, you can make a group first, I believe, and then that should hopefully show up here. If you, I guess, have any questions with that, it's probably best just email Profound Decisions. Please go and do that by all means, and figure out how to get that in place. But if you just chose a random one, then you're just randomly adding yourself to someone else's group, but never talking to them, and they might not even see that, and then it feels, I guess, strange to try and undo. But yeah, so this is for established groups that you might specifically join. Okay, so character questions. It's definitely worth filling these out, just because, one, it's good to think about, and it's also potentially a resource for PD to find certain people who have like specific parts of their story. So what are your character's main IC goals? What if your main IC goal is to be, I don't know, the biggest criminal drug dealer in town, and maybe PD look that up and they're like, oh, okay, well, we know we can push this little bit of plot this character's way, and maybe you get something in your character pack or something like that. I wouldn't expect anything specifically from PD. I wouldn't expect to be dragged into the plot just because it's such a humongous game, but the character questions and your background is a potential resource for that, and also just good for you to kind of write something out and think about your character. So if you want to change these things like your background in future, you can email PD with a new background, but otherwise there's not an easy way to just go back and like edit it. So worth filling these out. Your character's main goals, your loyalties, which is I think specific to League, and then where were you born. So you might want to put that your main character's goals, I think it's always good to have like particular goals in the game, not just something like getting rich, but something like being a senator, being the most influential priest in all of League, whatever it is. Something that helps drive your game is just a great way to start interacting with other characters and have a reason to talk to people. Loyalties are important to League, so loyalties are often joined to rings that Leaguers have, where you might have pledged your loyalty to someone and received a ring to wear to show that sign of loyalty. So having lots and lots of rings as a Leaguer might show that you have like lots of experience and loyalties in your past, and lots of responsibilities, and that you're quite big and important. Whereas if you have like one or two, then you're just like your average person starting out, probably. Where were you born as well, something very specific, just to help build out your character. And then background, you can put whatever you want as long as it, I guess, makes sense within the world. Maybe you were like part of like a guild that broke down and then you started your own one. Maybe you were a little kid on the streets who had to like fight and work your way up to becoming like the person you are now, and so you got a lot of street smarts and things like that. Whatever you want, take inspiration from your location, your city, your nation, and work from there. So then you can click save character once you're done with all of that, and then you will have made your character, and that's the character you can bring to the next game. So yeah, that was quite a lot, and yeah, I hope you found this useful, and let us know below if you have any further questions or any other things that you think would be useful to make an instructional video on. I'm going to try and keep these not too meaty, and yeah, let's make characters. Let's go LARP. This is LARP Larks. He who laughs last LARPs last. Yep. Okay.